At sunrise, the water was already screaming. They said the man inside was a murderer, but by the end, no one could tell who the real monster was, the cook in the pot or the king who ordered it. This is the story of the man who was boiled alive, under the king's law itself. It was the year 1531, a time when England burned with both faith and fear. King Henry VIII ruled with a golden crown and an iron will, a monarch caught between the church's power and his own hunger for control. The streets of London were filled with whispers of witches, poisoners, and heretics. And in those dark alleys, the word treason could kill faster than any sword. His name was Richard Roose, a simple household cook serving Bishop John Fisher, a man of piety and principle. Roose was no nobleman, no knight, no priest, just a servant, a man whose hands knew fire, knives, and the scent of boiling broth. He lived quietly until the day everything changed. It began, as all tragedies do, with a meal. On a cold February afternoon, the bishop's household gathered for dinner, but something was wrong. Within minutes of eating, 2 guests collapsed, choking, trembling, foam at their lips. One servant died. Others gasped for breath. The cause? The soup. And the man who made it, Richard Roose, was dragged away before the bodies were even cold. He claimed it was an accident. He said he only meant to play a jest, spicing the food with a laxative herb meant for laughter, not death. But the court saw something darker, an assassination attempt on a man of God. London was silent when the verdict came. Poison was a crime of shadows, invisible, silent, terrifying. It turned the very act of eating, of sharing bread, into a game of trust and fear. The king wanted to make an example, to burn the fear into every household and heart. But burning, hanging, and beheading were too ordinary for such treachery. Henry demanded a punishment no Englishman would ever forget. They built a giant copper cauldron at Smithfield, the same place where heretics once burned. It was filled with water. A fire was lit beneath it, slow, steady, patient. On March 15, 1531, the people gathered, merchants, nobles, and beggars alike, drawn by the promise of horror. Roose was dragged forward, stripped to his waist. He begged for mercy, but the guard said nothing. Then, by royal command, he was lowered into the boiling cauldron alive. The water hissed, bubbled, and screamed as flesh met fire. Witnesses said he leapt up and down within the pot, his skin peeling, his cries echoing through the square. He sank, rose, sank again, his body breaking, his soul trapped between agony and steam. It took 45 minutes for the screaming to stop. Some said the crowd wept, others said they cheered, but one thing was certain, no one could look away. And King Henry watched from a distance, unmoved. For him, it wasn't just justice, it was order restored. The cook's crime was forgotten, but the sound of boiling flesh lingered in every kitchen, every tavern, every palace. Then came the decree, the act of poisoning. By royal law, anyone found guilty of using poison would be boiled alive, men or women, rich or poor. For the first time in English history, pain itself was made legal. It wasn't just about killing the guilty. It was about killing the idea that anyone could harm the king's peace from within. Henry VIII had created not just a punishment, but a warning carved in agony. In the months that followed, the cauldron was used again, against servants, apothecaries, and cooks accused of poisoning. Some guilty, some innocent. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the law vanished. No record explains why. No decree ended it. It simply disappeared. As if even England itself wanted to forget what it had done. Historians still debate the truth. Some say Richard Roose truly meant to kill. Others believe he was framed, caught in a web of royal politics when Henry sought to terrify the people after poisoning rumors spread across court. The Chronicles of Edward Hall and Holinshed record his death as fact. But no one recorded his last words, only that he screamed. And then he didn't. Centuries later, the cauldron is gone, the square is silent, and the law is dust. But the question remains, what kind of justice boils a man alive, and still calls itself holy? They say the cauldron was never destroyed, only buried beneath Smithfield Market, and those who've dug too deep claim to hear bubbling from below. Next time, we'll uncover the secret of the tower that whispers the names of the dead.